Okay, as I said, today is going to be a lecture about modeling. So I'm going to introduce the, briefly the presenter. His name is Yang-Jin Kim. He got his bachelor's degree in the Department of Math Education, from Korea University. He's basically a senior. So he got his master's degree in 2003 from University of Minnesota, and he also got his PhD in University of Minnesota in 2006. After finishing his PhD, he worked as a postdoctor in Mathematical Bioscience Institute at Ohio State University from 2006 to 2009. That's correct?
Yes.
And he worked at University of Michigan as an assistant professor from 2009 to 2012. And he came to Korea, right, to Dongguk University, 2012. Anyway, so here's brief curriculum data. So he's going to give us, how to use mathematics to model actual data in real life context. So I asked him, those kind of topic. As you can see, topic is going to be mathematical biology and whispers. So I think, let's clap our hand to give him our welcome.
Thank you. Well, can you hear me? Is it okay? Well, I know this this lecture is in English. No, it's fine. It's fine. Actually, I'm very comfortable with giving a lecture in English. So, if you prefer, I can give you in both languages. Anyway, the title of the topic is mathematical biology useful? 안 해도 된다 그랬지? 해? 말아. 오케이. 제 백그라운드는 중간에 섞여서 할게요. 이건 사실은 이제 여러분 이렇게 좀 하다 보면은 사실은 좀 이렇게 영어도 편해요. 이렇게 발표한 내용도 그렇고, 이런 내용도 그렇고. 그래서 아마 이렇게 막 자꾸 이렇게 영어가 튀어나올 텐데, 이렇게 그냥 섞어서 알아들으시면 될 것 같고, 저도 수업도 좀 그런 식으로 이렇게 이상하게 하는데, 어쨌든 제가 하고 있는 거는 여기 불을 조금 이렇게 꺼줬으면 좋겠네요. 그래서 제가 과거에 소개를 이렇게 해주신 것처럼, 주로 이렇게 일을 해왔던 일들은 이제 주로 이렇게 브레인 캔서마들이라고 이렇게 글리오블라스토마라고 해서 이게 뇌종양에 해당되는 그런 부분이고, 또 한쪽은 이제 브라스트 캔서라고 해서 이제 유방암 쪽에 일을 좀 했고요. 그다음에 이제 이쪽 튜머 도먼시라고 해가지고 이제 튜머가 이렇게 자랐다가 나중에 멈췄다가 이렇게 다 나타났네 하고 있는데 갑자기 또 나타나는 사람 죽이고 이럴 때 튜머 도먼시 하는 그런 거. 또 이제 시스템스 바이올로지라고 해가지고 이제 굉장히 좀 다른 좀 그런 거지만 이제 하여간 시스템스 바이올로지 쪽으로도 일을 했고 하이브리드 마들 쪽에서 일을 하고 그래서 좀 이렇게 다양하게 여기저기 이렇게 터치 베이스로 하는데 오늘 이제 간단하게 이젠플로 이렇게 보여드릴 내용은 이제 브레인 캔서하고 이제 브레스트 캔서 쪽 두 개로 해가지고 얘기를 할게요. 그래서 이게 좀 약간 멀어가지고 이쪽에 좀 가까웠으면 좋겠는데. 클릭을 좀 해야 되는데. 그래서 박아면서 이렇게 할게요. 박아면서 할게요. 그래가지고, 이게 지금 어디로 갔다 갔다. 그래가지고 이제 주로 일을 해왔던 부분들은 이제 브레인 캔서나 이제 브레스트 캔서 이쪽으로 주로 얘기를 해왔고요. The first topic은 이제 그 외에도 이제 요즘 하고 있는 거는 이제 그 브레인 캔서뿐이 아니라 이제 다양한 종류의 렁 캔서 쪽도 이렇게 하고 있는데요. 그러니까 렁 캔서 쪽은 이제 그 포항공대에 계신 황인주 교수님 수학과에 계신 분인데 수학과에 있는 피디야 선생님하고 여기 그 김영경 교수님, 그러니까 김영경 교수님은 이제 그 원래 이제 서울대 MD이셨는데 이제 그 포항공대에서 지금 이제 실험을 하고 계시는데 그 의사죠, 의사. 그러니까 저는 주로 이제 의사들하고 일을 합니다. 그래서 의사들이나 이제 의사 밑에 있는 이제 그 실험하시는 분들이랑 이렇게 일을 하고 이제 요분도 이제 굉장히 세계적으로 유명하신 원래 이제 제 있었을 때 이제 오하이오 스테이트에 계시다가 이제 하버드 가셨는데 그 하버드에 계신 분이거든요. 이 친구도 이제 저랑 같이 일을 했던 그래서 오늘 발표할 내용이 요 중에 하나고 이 친구도 지금 이제 영국에 있는데 지금 다시 하버드로 간다고 하더라고요. 그 이제 그 영국 그룹에 있는 이 팀하고 이제 일을 다시 시작했고 여기 소연로라고 이제 요 제 학생인데 그 이제 미시간 대학 있을 때 이제 제 밑에 있었던 학생 이제 언더 학생이에요. 그러니까 제가 그 언더라는 건 이제 여러분 저 이제 학생인데 이제 여기는 그런 게 굉장히 그 리서치 액티비티가 이렇게 굉장히 활성화되어 있어가지고 그 대학원생만 연구를 하는 게 아니라 이렇게 언더 학생도 이제 이렇게 연구를 합니다. 그래가지고 이제 저랑 같이 일을 해서 이제 논문이 2개가 나왔어요. 좋은데 그래가지고 되게 자랑스러워하고 있는데 어쨌든 지금도 이제 그 유니버시티 미시간 애나버 거기에서 이제 지금도 이제 그 인턴십으로 이번 여름에 가서 이제 일을 할 텐데. 그리고 이제 최근에 이제 시작한 일 중에 하나가 이제 바이러스 프로젝트인데 이것도 이제 글리오마 바이러스 프로젝트라고 그러는데 이것도 이제 뇌종양을 이것저것 이렇게 이렇게 좀 이따 이제 제가 발표할 내용을 보고 이제 알겠지만 이게 굉장히 잘 죽어요. 그러니까 이 글리오블라스마라는 게 뇌종양이라는 거는 이제 되게 이게 좀 시리어스한 디지죠. 이게 한 번 걸리면 거의 6개월 안에 죽습니다. 그래가지고 이거는 걸리면 그냥 거의 방법이 없어요. 그래서 이제 그걸 어떻게 치료하겠다고 이제 이것저것 방법을 쓰는데, 최근에 그래서 이 팀이 이제 그 오하이오스테이트에 있는 이제 실험하시는 그 팀이고, 이쪽 가족 중에 있던. 그래서 최근에 이제 제가 호주에 엊그제 발표하러 갔을 때, 거기서 이제 윤채욱 교수님을 만났는데, 이제 한양대 계세요. 원래 연대 계시다가 이번에 한양대 옮기셨는데, 그 한양대 윤채욱 교수님이 이제 알고 보니까 그 포닥이 이쪽에서 일하고 있더라고요. 그래가지고 이 팀하고 이제 지금 내일 모레 가서 톡하고 일 시작하기로 해서, 이 팀도 아마 이제 시작을 할 것 같고, 이 팀은 이제 롱캔서 쪽으로 이렇게 하고, 이제 NIH에 지금은 이제 오하이오 스테이트 제가 있었을 때 같이 일했던 이제 칼리그인데, 지금 이제 NIH에서 이제 디렉터로 있어요. 그래서 그쪽에서 이제 NIH는 이제 미국, 우리나라 따지면 이제 한국 보건원 정도 되는, 내셔널 헬스 인스티튜트라고, 거기에서 이제 일하고 있는 친구인데, 이 친구하고는 이제 마이크로 RNA라고 해가지고, 유전자, 여러분 많이 들어본 거는 이제 유전자 해가지고 DNA하고 메신저 RNA라 해서 mRNA를 들어봤을 텐데, 미르51이라고 하는 이제 요 마이크로 RNA라는 거 굉장히 짧은 형태의 쬐끄만 그런 RNA, 메신저 RNA 중에 일부입니다. 그래서 그쪽 프로젝트 이제 새로 시작을 했고, 그러니까 이렇게 좀 이것저것 다양하게 하고 있는데, 이제 원래 이게 상대가 이제 전문가들 앞에서 이렇게 하는 건 아니고, 근데 오늘 제가 이제 발표할 내용은 이제 전반적으로 어떤 이제 두 개의 기점표로 보여드려가지고, 이제 수학이 어떻게 쓰여질 수 있는지, 그거를 한번 내용을 잠깐 발표를 할게요. 그래서 첫 번째 발표드릴 내용은 이제 글리오블라스토마라고 해가지고, 이쪽 뇌종양입니다. 그래가지고 뇌종양을 이제 어떻게 키워할까, 이런 거에 대한 얘기인데, 자, 그걸 시작하기 전에 이제 여기 일을 했던 팀은 조금 아까 나왔던 팀처럼 이제 펀딩은 여기 미시간 펀딩하고, 건대에서 받은 거랑 내셔널 하고, 여기 요 팀하고, 엑스페리먼트 팀하고 지금 같이 일을 하고 있고요. 최근 막 시작한 프로젝트는 이쪽에 있는 팀, 그쪽 팀 5명하고 일을 시작했습니다. 그래서 요 내용에 대해서는 제가 먼저 무비를 보여주고 그 다음에 시작을 할게요. 그래서 제가 이제 먼저 보여드릴 내용이 뭐냐면, 이렇게 그림이 이제 보이는데요. 이 옆에 보면은 이제 뭔가 흐물흐물 이렇게 올라가는 이 녀석들이, 이 녀석들이 셀이에요, 셀. 그러니까 하나하나의 글리오블라스토마 셀이에요. 그러니까 튜머 셀들. 그러니까 이 녀석들이 이제 여러분 그러니까 머리에 들어가면 이거는 이제 사실 머리에서 찍힌 그림은 아니고요. 실제 실험실 안에서 이런 식으로 실험을 한다는 거죠. 그래서 실험을 해보면 콜라겐 젤 같은 데 이렇게 넣고 얘를 이렇게 하면 이렇게 하나하나 이렇게 움직이는 얘들이 요 하나에 있는 거, 요런 셀들, 요런 것들이 이제 다 이렇게 인디비주얼 하나하나 셀들이에요. 근데 문제는 뭐냐면, 이 녀석들이 이제 글리오블라스토마라는 게 굉장히 인베이시브 해가지고 그 녀석들을 잘라내야 되는데, 여러분 캔서 걸리면 여러분 주변에서, 제 형도 사실 암이 하나 걸렸었는데, 당연히 이제 암은 아니고 튜머 정도로 해서, 튜머하고 캔서 차이는, 튜머라는 것은 이제 종양이죠, 종양. 무슨 근종 형태로 이렇게 존재하는, 그러니까 덩이에요, 덩치. 컨트롤 못하게 하는 막 자라고 있는 어떤 덩이 그래서 이렇게 브레스트 캔서나 이제 뇌종양 걸린 사람들 이렇게 보면 되게 좀 징그러워요. 그러니까 피부암 같은 거 걸리면 여기 피부 쪽으로 이렇게 이렇게 너무 징그러서 지금 못 보여주겠는데 이렇게 막 튀어나오고 이래요. 그러니까 혹처럼 이렇게 막 징그럽게 이렇게 나오는데, 그런 것들이 이제 이렇게 자라는 거, 그런 걸 이제 튜머라고 그래요. 그러니까 컨트롤 할 수 못하게 자라게 하는 그런 것들이 튜머고, 그게 더 이상 이제 그냥 그대로 있으면 괜찮은데, 그게 이제 온몸으로 퍼져서 여기저기 장기를 누르고 이것저것 이제 그 사이드 이펙트를 너무 심하게 하기 시작하면 그게 이제 캔서예요. 그게 이제 암이고, 일단 암이 되면은 더 이상 컨트롤이 안 되고 이제 사람이 죽죠. 이제 죽는 게 이제 자라는 셀 때문에 죽는다기보다는 그 녀석들이 주변에 올간도, 그러니까 여러분 장기들도 눌러대고 이것저것 막 다 메스업 시키는 거예요. 그러니까 여러분 몸에 있는 호메오스테시스를 완전히 메스업 시켜가지고, 그래가지고 이제 완전히 더 이상 살 수 없는 상태로 만드는 거, 그게 이제 암이에요. 그래서 여러분 지금 아마 여러분 몸속에도 사실은 이제 튜머는 있을지도 몰라요. 아마 여러분의 한 30% 정도 있을지도 몰라요. 왜냐면 이게 아직도 이제 경계가 불분명한데, 이게 죽은 사람을 예를 들어 이제 우리 어머님도 포함해서 지금 병원에 계신데, 저희 어머님 포함해서 돌아가시고 나서 부검을 해보면 대부분의 여성분들 같은 경우, 남자도 마찬가지고 여성분들 이렇게 유방을 이렇게 잘라보면 그 안에 굉장히 튜머가 많이 있어요. 사실은 그 안에 굉장히 많이 있는데, 그게 이제 전이가 안 되는 거죠. 메타가 안 되는 게, 메타스테스가 안 돼가지고 딴 데로 퍼지지 않고 사람을 죽일 정도로 치지 않아서 그렇지, 사실상 튜머는 여러 군데 몸 여기저기 있을 수 있어요. 그리고 대장암 종류나 이런 것도 이제 잘라낼 수 있잖아요. 그죠? 그러니까 대장암 같은 경우는 이렇게 고기 많이 드시면 대장암 잘 걸리는데, 그러니까 옛날에는, 그래서 이제 서양화되면서 이제 생기는 암들이 생기고 이런 게 다르는 것이 이제 먹는 종류나 생활 습관 이런 거에 따라서, 그래서 서양 사람들이 걸리는 암 종류하고 동양 사람들이 걸리는 암 종류가 달라요. 그게 이제 생활 습관이나 먹는 거, 여러분 햄버거 많이 먹고 이러면 대장암 많이 걸리죠. 그러니까 그런 것들은 이제 여기에서 아무래도 이제 그런 것도 육류 같은 계통이 많이 이제 대장을 자극하니까. 어쨌든 간에 이제 그런 종류의 것들이 이제 여러 군데 있어서, 이제 전체적인 암을 치료하는 데 있어서 이제 수학이 어떻게 이제 이루어질 그러니까 어떻게 이용될 수 있을까 하는 게 이제 제 연구의 초점이에요. 그래서 이제 우리나라에서는 사실상 거의 전무했고, 제가 유학 나갈 때만 해도 사실은 거의 메소메리컬 바이올로지라는 것이 있는지도 모르고, 사실은 미네소타가 PD 스쿨이라서, PD 그러면 이제 partial differential equation, 편미분 방정식이죠. 편미분 방정식으로 유명한 스쿨이라서 그거 전공하러 갔었는데, 거기 이제 메소바이올로지의 대가 한 분이 이제 제가 갔을 때 하필이면 와서, 그래서 이제 거기에서 제가 일을 시작하게 된 거였어요. 그래서 이제 호흡은 이제 점점점 이제 미국에서는 이제 한 50년 전에서 이미 시작됐지만, 한국에서도 이제 굉장히 그런 융합하죠, 요즘에. 융합이라고 하는 그런 텍스트로 해가지고, 이제 여러 학문들이 이제 조합해서 이제 어떻게 하면 이제 우리가 유스풀한 그런, 수학을 만들어낼 수 있겠느냐, 이런 식으로 가고 있는 겁니다. 전체 큰 분야가. 그래서 안에 이제 내용을 대충 잠깐 보면, 그러니까, glioblastoma multiform이라고 얘기를 하는데요. 그러니까 glioblastoma multiform is very rapid, is very invasive cancer, as you said in this picture. So this is the image of brain in patient, and these white areas of the image represents this glioblastoma. So this little one, in this case, the size of this glioblastoma is quite big, but in general, this area can be very small. So this type of cancer can be characterized as a rapid proliferation and aggressive invasion. That means that these individual cells can invade into the tissue that host the cancer or the tumor. And as I said, median survival time of this cancer is less than 6 months. That means that as soon as you are diagnosed with this type of cancer, you die within 6 months with very high probability. And in order to cure this, what you can do in the experiments is to inject this little chunk of cells into the collagen gels in the lab, as you can see in these images here. And all these 4 images represent all these invasive cancer cells, and this type of image is quite different from the images that you will get if you put other type of cancer, such as breast cancer, into the collagen gels. In that case, they will form very spherical shape. But in this case, you can see it is these type of individual cells that migrate away from the main core. So the main problem in this type of cancer is that by the time that you dissect this area, you just don't know where those cells are located. But that's what the medical doctors do if you go to a hospital and just being diagnosed by the doctors. And it's just that the doctors cannot see any individual cells that are away from those main cores. So say, well, if there's only one cell here or there, and this is just typical image of the MRI, and as you do, well, doctors are not able to catch those individual cells' behavior. So what they do is take away or resect this area, something that they can see through the MRI images, and then they just and that type of the treatment is followed by radiotherapy and the chemotherapy. But those 2 types of therapies doesn't work simply because I don't know, nobody really knows, but for some reason none of this method is working. So that is the key point of this slide. So, or the key point of our presentation here. So we want to catch out, or we want to track down all these individual cells that is invisible individual cells, so that you know exactly where these cells are located, and then you can track them down, and then you can kill them out. That's the idea. But this is the image that you can see if you put these tumor cells in here, then the cells are here and there, and typically you will have the high glucose. The glucose is a sugar. That is something that you will get when you have a chocolate or some other food. So the high glucose is located outside of the ring, and the low glucose is at the bottom, or at the center of the domain, because essentially tumor cells will consume those glucose because that is the energy source. And you can see variety of patterns that you can see in the lab. And point then is to see if there's any way you can prevent this invasion. So these individual cells in vivo means that this is the image that you will get from the brain of mouse, not in the lab. So in this case, these individual cells are already spread into the tissue, and this is the main core. Again, this main chunk is the only thing that you can see, but the other dots here, you can't see. So in order to track them down, we developed a mathematical model to describe the behavior. And you don't have to worry about any of the details of these slides. This one just simply is a fancy mathematics that you will learn if you go to grad school. You don't necessarily have to go to grad school in order to understand this. If you learn anything about partial differential equation, and if you try to interpret the meaning of each terms, then you'll be able to create one of these models like this one. And we consider the density of tumor cells and the density of the ECM, which means that stands for extracellular matrix, and it's MMP and glucose. And again, you don't have to look at all these details, but the point is we want to use mathematical models to understand the basic behavior of tumor cells invasion. And furthermore, we want to understand what is the sort of the key parameters that you will perturb in a given PD systems in order to obtain what you want to have. In other words, you want to block the invasion of tumor cells. Oops, sorry. So, and this would be, and of course there's the details that you have to put in the paper if you want to write a paper, but this would be the picture that you want to show to the medical doctors. And medical doctors would say, well, okay, this one looks great. This is exactly what we do see in the experiments or in the patients. So this is the simulation. This is the images that I got from the simulations, and this is the images that you will get in the lab. So in the simulation, you will see these branching patterns here. So this in the background, blue represents nothing. It's just a background field, and this the red and the yellow represents the high density of tumor cells. And then you will see these branching patterns here, and these branching patterns kind of resemble these branching patterns that you will see in the lab, something like this one here. And here you will see a branching pattern. Oh, no, sorry. In this case, you will see a little bit of branching patterns here and the islands. So these islands will be representing the islands that you will see in the images that I just showed in vivo, in mouse brain. So the point is, you wanna use the mathematical models to predict something useful. And it turns out that in the previous model, it turns out that there's 3 different parameters that we want to perturb. So, for instance, this one represents the chemotactic sensitivity, and this is the sort of the tendency of tumor cells to respond to the chemical signal. Let's say, well, everybody want to have food, right? Especially when they're hungry, and bacteria do too. So when you have some food up there, then I will just migrate toward this site in order to get this, and cells do exactly the same thing. So if I'm a cell here, then if there's any food up there, then I will respond to the chemical signals in that direction if there's a high concentration of glucose or some other chemicals. So this one will characterize that, and there's some other 2 types of things that, for instance, this one will represent cell cell interaction, so cell cell adhesions. That means that cells have a tendency of adhering to their neighboring cells. So, and this one is another parameter that you don't know. This is a little bit of technical terms. It's called the heptotactic sensitivity.
I have a question.
Yes.
Basically, your research team developed this kind of formula, right?
Yes.
That's the first formula from Proteus. Then I think you're going to, if you are going to have some skill or technique, how to develop this kind of formula, because there are so many factors
Yes.
to influence
Yes.
this kind of situation. But I'm just wondering, those kind of complicated formula, how did you develop?
Well, that's a very good question.
For our students.
Yes, that's very important questions. So that's why I always work with the experimentalists and or medical doctors. It's not just that there's millions of terms that you can create. I mean, it's up to you. I mean, you can just cook up a lot of different things, but when you attack some problems, let's say, so each time I see a medical doctor, and each time I want to develop any collaboration with some medical doctors or any areas of mathematical biology, I will talk to them, and they would say, well, this is the problem that I have. This is something that I cannot do in the experiments. And they will ask, can you do that? Through the mathematical modeling. In other words, it's not just we are trying to reproduce what they do have already. It's just that we want to develop a mathematical models that are capable of predicting something new, something that they cannot do. You are in a mathematical education. I mean, you are in a mathematics in general. Therefore, you don't know anything. Probably you know a little bit of biology, but they are the experts, and you are the experts in mathematics. So, when you do collaboration with some other people in other areas, what you do is you want to strengthen your abilities. So you want to create some terms that represent some represent some phenomenon that they see in the biological context. If you want to work with the biologist, if you want to work with the engineers, of course you have to talk to them and you will ask, what are the terms that you want to have? Or what are the things that you want to reproduce? What are the terms that are important in this context? So when I talk to them, for instance, in this case, I will talk to them and they will say, well, this is the problem. Well, each time I see the patients die. No medical doctors want that, right? They want to cure this disease. They want to save these patients, but they can't do with the skills that they have right now. And these are exactly the things that we have. So they cannot predict where these cells are located, because the only thing that they can see is through the MRI images. And they will ask me, well, then develop a mathematical models that can predict something new, something that I don't know. And then I'll ask, then what are the key factors? What are the things that I have to consider? What are the factors that I have to take into account? Then they will say, well, these cells would respond to certain chemicals that are represented by these chemotaxis up there. And in mathematics, there's a certain forms that you can adopt if you hear this kind of languages. Say, when they say chemotaxis, what is that? Chemotaxis is just simply a migration of tumor cells in the direction of certain stimulus. Then there's a terms in mathematics that represent this, such behavior. Then you put that in. And they would say, well, cells, they tend to adhere each other. I mean, they want to stick to each other and all that. Then you say, okay, then I will develop that. So this is the new terms that this Kn, for instance, the last term, that is the one that I developed based on the observations. So you ask them what they need, and then you somehow try to use mathematical formulas to model this behavior at the phenomenological basis. I hope I answered your question. So this is the mathematical model. So let's go to a little bit of a practical side. Up to that point, they were impressed. Okay, mathematical models, is very fancy, it's very nice and so on. But something's missing. What they're missing is that they want to know exactly what are the pathways they want to control, because that's what the medical doctors do. That's what the drugs can do. So if you go to a pharmaceutical company, I guess I didn't say this one, but somebody like me who was trained in mathematical biology, especially in the cancer area, doesn't always get a job as a professor. They can get a job in pharmaceutical companies. And many of my friends actually have a job in pharmaceutical companies. What they do on a daily basis is that they want to develop a mathematical models, and they just try to find a chemical compounds that fit into the experimental data they have. And using that data, they will generate a golden boy. In other words, they want to get a very powerful medical drugs then that can be very effective in curing cancer. And when they do, what they want to do is what those chemicals do. What are those medical drugs do in the context of cancer research? Well, they want to touch down. These are the chemicals. What they do, they just bounce to certain other chemicals, and they do chemical reactions, and they do something, right? And then they will react to certain other chemicals, and so on, and have certain effects. And when you catch a cold, then what do? You take a medication, and then you get better, because these medical drugs will do something. Do some chemical reactions. They induce chemical reactions. They do some effect on your body. So, in order to understand the exact behavior, what's really going on behind the scene, you want to know what is exactly happening behind the scenes. In other words, you want to know what is happening inside the cell, because that's what the medical drugs do. So medical drugs will bind to the receptor on the surface of the cells, and they will go down all the downstreams, in other words, pathways, and do something, and then they will go down to the DNA, and they will transcribe, and then translation, and all that, and then they will regulate back on the proteins in the cell, and they will make cell to migrate or do something stupid or do something else. So you want to touch down this you want to touch down this, their pathways if you really want to control their behavior. So here's the experiments that I got from the experimentalist. So they published this paper in the Cell, and again, this is the control. So in the case of the control, this is the typical pictures that you will see if you don't do anything. But what they found was when they put the Mir51. So Mir51 is the one of the microRNAs that exist in your body. Everybody has one. And they found that Mir51 is overexpressed, meaning they can show up when you do some work with the antibodies. So you put some of the markers, and then they will show up. And you can see this one is the enhanced. You can see this one is off, or this one is the on. So they found that Mir51 is overexpressed in the presence of the high glucose levels. In other words, when you have the sugar, so you like a chocolate, you take chocolate and you eat chocolate. I like chocolate, and each time you have a chocolate, this Mir51 will be overexpressed because chocolate is just chunk of the glucose. That is the energy source in your body. You will consume this chocolate, they will go down to downstreams, and this glucose will circulate your body and give you energy. And that's why I can move my hands and here and there. And then this one will go to the brain, and they will overexpress this Mir51. So if you have high glucose, then they found that they don't migrate too much. They do a little bit. But when you have very low level of glucose, they found that Mir51 level is very, very low. And its counterpart, called AMPK complex, is upregulated, meaning this one is up. So this is what they found in the experiments. And if you draw a picture with these cartoon models, then this is what's happening. On the left, you put the glucose levels. So glucose here, glucose high, glucose low. When glucose is high, that induces Mir51 upregulated, and that will block this. A hammer bar here represents any inhibition. In other words, it's like a seesaw. So when you put this one is up, then this one will inhibit this one. So this one is up, therefore this one is down. And when this one is down, there's another one that I didn't draw called mTOR, and that one is up. In that situation, that reduces the proliferation. In other words, cells will grow. You will see tons of cells that will just simply grow and grow and grow. One cell becomes $2 cells, the $2 cells generate next generation, grandfather and granddaughter and great-great-great-great-daughter, and so on. And they will generate all downstreams, and they will just keep proliferating. That's the characteristic of the tumor cells. Characteristics of tumor cells is that they just simply don't know how to stop. In your body, every cell has their natural cycle. In other words, in your skin, these are the epithelial. This is this epithelial. Epithelial cells have to know exactly when to stop growing, right? Otherwise, you'd be like this, huge, right? They have to know exactly when to stop growing, and they have to initiate growing when they are necessary. For instance, let's say you're burned and your skins are gone. What do? You have to produce some kind of cells to cover your body. So in that case, they will activate, and then the cells will grow in that site. However, these tumor cells just don't know when to stop. Something's missing. Something's, they are screwed up, okay, essentially. So, on the other hand, when glucose levels are low, Mir51 level is down. And because of this mutual inhibition, this will induce upregulation of this pathway, and they will induce migration. In other words, through these complex networks, input high glucose leads to proliferation, and migration is down. And low glucose go through all these pathways, and they will induce this cell migration and low cell proliferation. So it's like a dichotomy behavior, right? is either on and off. It's either you are migrating or you are proliferating. You sit there and grow, or you stop growing and do migrate, depending on the level of the glucose through these pathways. So that is exactly we want to model here, because those are the pathways that you want to control. This is the place that you don't want to control this glucose. Can you live without glucose? Nobody can do. I mean, you have to have food in order to survive. Glucose is an energy source. If you don't have glucose, you'll die. It's like somebody who sits and lie down on the bed and doesn't move. It's more like a dead body. You do need the energy source, glucose. You cannot control glucose. You cannot control this. However, when you have drugs, they can interrupt and they can control these pathways in your cell. So then what is the mathematical, where is the point? Where is the place we can contribute as a mathematician? What am I doing here, right? It's not like I'm trying to explain biology to you. I mean, you want to do something new. You want to do something biologists cannot do or doesn't want to do because they don't have time. So we want to develop a mathematical model with this very little cute cartoon model like this one. This means that when you have glucose is the input. Glucose is in. This is biology. So on the left, this is the picture that I got from this paper from my colleagues. And these are the cartoon models that I draw. So your input is glucose. Now, what you want to do is, you don't want to take a look at all the details of individual boxes here, because what those do, this is exactly where mathematics can do something about these kind of things. Because as a biologist can spend 30 years, whole their life, in order to explain very little pathway between this and this. I'm not kidding. Really. But from modeling point of view, I don't care. In the future, I might care. But at this stage, I don't care. Because what I want to know is, just simply dynamics from the mathematics. Something that can explain the behavior that you are seeing in the biology. So here, instead of taking all these little dots or little players into account in my model, I'm going to simply merge all of this into one module, and I will simply call them the A. And I will just simply call this one as M. I cannot merge this one into this because this one, the behavior between those two is different. But all they do here in this box is that this one do this and this one goes to this. Everything is just arrow. Okay, A goes to B, B goes to C, C goes to D. Well, input, output, it's just simply the same. You don't want to take into all this account, all this. Of course, if you really want to know the dynamics of all full system, you might want to do it. Especially if you want to develop a drugs that can target one of these specific these molecules here. But from mathematical model point of view, I don't care. So then you can develop a mathematical model based on this simple diagram. And this is the one. Wow, it's cute. This is one thing that you can see in your differential equation course, right? I'm teaching differential equation course this semester. And this is something that you can see in the classroom. And if you're lucky, sometimes you can solve this type of differential equation, sometimes you can't, depending on what type of equations you have, right? So, well, in this case, individual parameters, these parameters G, S, gamma, mu, 1 and 2, and all these parameters, it does have some meaning. For instance, this mu1 represents the decay, natural decay. This gamma 3 would represents the strength of the positive feedback of this cycle, and so on. So with this assumption, with certain assumptions based on the biology, it's not just you can cook up any terms as you like. It has to be based on biology, and the model has to have the ability of predicting something you can see in the biology, at least. And then once that is satisfied, then you can go forward, and then you can say, well, okay, let's move forward and
Well, we can now predict something new. Okay? So this is the non-dimensional version, meaning that without, this is a mathematical tool that you can do. So without dimension, or with the units, without unit, you can convert the previous equations into this. And then this is the typical things that you can see in the mathematical courses. So what you do? Well, in the phase plane of the middle 41, which is M and A, you wanna draw the trajectory. So you have initial conditions, and then you run the simulation, and you want to know where those things are going. It turns out, depending upon a very crucial parameter G, and remember this G represents the glucose level. So when glucose levels is low, there's one steady state, meaning this is the place that all these trajectories will converge. And there's only one steady state, a stable steady state. And when glucose levels are high, there's another stable state, steady state on the right lower corner. But look at the location. Here, in this, when glucose levels are low, this is located in the left upper corner of the domain. And this one is located on the right lower corner of the domain. Now, and if you take a look at, so this is a place that you wanna interpret as results. Now, this location represents, well, this means that AMPK complex, this A value is high, but M value is low. Well, in this case, M value is high, but AMPK level is low. That was exactly the things that you saw, up regulation and down regulation in the previous cartoon models in the biology. And what is happening when G is when G levels is intermediate levels? Well, in that case, it turns out that there's 3 steady states, 2 being stable, and 1 unstable steady state in the middle. And this is something they didn't see in the experiments. Okay, and I'm collaborating with the experimentalists at the University of UK, University of Leeds in UK, to predict if they actually can see in the experiments in this phenomenon. So this is something that you can see in the experiments, and this is something that you can see in the experiments, but this is something that they cannot see because they have their own restrictions. You go to them and you just ask, can you do this, can you do that? They cannot do it because they have their own restrictions. I mean, they have to keep their mouse alive, and they have to work hard, and so on. So they have their own restrictions and constraints. So it's not something, it's not just like I just go there and just do something for me and so on. So this is something new. Now we want to confirm this behavior with the mathematical models.
Go back to the previous slide.
Yes.
One more.
Yes.
So basically, you develop A and M independent variable.
Yes.
So at the left-hand side, it's complex, but it's going to be A is going to be represented. That's going to be the whole thing.
Yes. Yes.
Inside of them, probably they are dependent on each other. That's why.
Exactly. They actually, yes, they depend on each other. However, the point that I was trying to say was that this guy will induce this, and this full complex will induce this. In other words, when this is high, this will be high as well. So as long as their behaviors are same in the box. So input for this box is this level. And when this is up, this one is down. When this is down, this one will be up. So their behaviors are all the same. That's why I can merge everybody into one module.
You can simplify this one.
Exactly. Otherwise, I would have to split it into several different pieces, and then I have to in the case I'll have like 10 variables, and with even as a mathematician, when you have the 10 variables with 20 or 30 parameters, well, it's too much. Okay. Sometimes they do. I don't know if you can believe it, but in the pharmaceutical companies, they do. They have 100 variables, they have 100 parameters, and that's what they do. They want to fit these models with experiments that they are doing in their lab. But with this very, very simple cartoon model, yet we can predict something we can see in the biology, and also we can predict something new. Sometimes I have to, sometimes I don't have any choice. I mean, sometimes I have to use 10 variables, but in this case I was lucky, I guess. And this is a typical bifurcation diagrams that I see. So bifurcation, you don't have to know the exact bifurcation, the meaning of bifurcations, but bifurcation simply means that the dependency of certain variables as a function of a parameter. In this case, is glucose. So it's called hysteresis. That means that when glucose is level low and high, their behaviors are different. And what this means is that when you fluctuate glucose, then you can go up upper branches and lower branches. For instance, imagine yourself, let's say that you are here, then when you increase glucose, you will follow this steady state, you follow this curve, and when you are here, you don't have anywhere to go, you would have to jump up, now you go to the upper branch, which represents the growth. And then now suppose that you stop providing glucose, then tumor cells will consume glucose, they will lead these downstreams, they will go down, go down, go down. Once they reach left knee of the curve, they will go down, jump down, and so on. So if you're in the right frequency, then that means that you can form a loop of this. That means that, what does it mean in the biology? That means if you can control glucose level in a very accurately controlled frequency, that means that cells will grow, go, grow, go. Okay? You can form this cycle of those two phases. So, well, there's a fancy mathematics that involved here and there and there, but this is one hypothesis that the experimentalists had. So, experimentalists didn't know what is going to happen if they simply provide this steady supply of glucose. In other words, when you have, let's say you have same amount of glucose, say 10 microgram, whatever, and then you give them one shot, okay, or in a steady fashion. Then they will grow in a boring way. They will just keep growing and growing and growing without having any proliferation. But if you starve them in the beginning, well, give them a very low level of glucose, then cell will starve and they don't have anything to eat. They will start to migrate and they will form this little dots here. At the time when you give a shot of glucose, you have the flux of glucose. Now they are happy, they have food, they are happy. Now they are starting to settle down, they are starting to grow, and they will form this bigger chunk like this one. And then you stop giving this glucose, and then they starting to starve again. Then at some level they started to migrate again because they don't have any food anymore, and so on. So here's the hypothesis that the experimentalists suggested. What is the best strategy from tumor's point of view to grow faster? Is it that you give them one shot? Or you give them a shot and stop, give them a shot and stop, give them a shot and stop? Which one of these will lead to the fast growth? Right? It turns out that this guy will grow faster. And this has several implications in the biology or in tumor biology. What that means is that in your body you always have glucose. Each time you eat food, glucose will always go in, and your heart will pump up your blood, and glucose is delivered to your brain through your blood in a periodic fashion. It's like boom, 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 boom. You have heartbeat, and glucose will be provided in a fashion. Now we want to do something new, and this is the experiment. This is the predictions that we had, and the experiments. They didn't have experiments, but this was the model prediction. So when you have without glucose fluctuation, without glucose fluctuation, you had this dotted line, the black dotted line, and this is the curve that you will see when you have fluctuation. In other words, after 4 hours, after 10 hours or so, you will have bigger tumor. So that is the prediction. So I guess I am losing time. So let me just go skip all of details and so on. So let me just give you a punchline, and then I will shut up. And here we are using this hybrid model where I can now take into account the location of individual cells rather than taking a look at these tumors as a density of tumor cells. We want to look at individual cells. And then, now individual cells, they have their own unit of ODEs, ordinary differential equation, of μ51 and MBK. In the computation point of view, what that means is that for each individual cells, you have to run the simulation for individual cells. And individual cells, they have different modules. So you have different ODEs in your body, and you have different units in your body. Now so with different initial conditions, their regulation of this μ51 and MBK would be different. So my behavior would be different from your behaviors depending on where you are, depending on where glucose is located. So using this model with this fancy mathematics, we were able to predict something they can see. So when glucose level is high, you seeing this picture. Now you are seeing the clear picture. Medical doctors will like this one better because these are the things that they can see in the experiments. And with the low glucose levels, you see lots of dots. These lots of dots represent these individual cells. And these individual cells, these are something that you cannot see through the MRI images. So this is the only portion that you will cut off as a medical doctors. And think about it. This is your brain. If we talk about breast cancer, then at the worst case, if medical doctor thinks that there's any possibility of metastasis, in other words, if some of these cells can, if there's any possibility of migrating or transporting these cells, tumor cells, into the other portions, other organs like lung or your brains and in other places, then you die. So in that case, medical doctors would simply cut off your whole breast. They can do it, and of course, as a woman, which is a little bit uncomfortable, but yet you can still survive, right? But with your brain, you cannot mess with your brain. With your brain, when you mess with your brain, your tongues, your body would be twisted, your body would be paralyzed. My mother, for instance, half body is paralyzed because some surgery on her brain went wrong. You don't want to mess with your brain. So that's the reason why medical doctors can touch only this portion, not this one. But when they do, this radiotherapy, chemotherapy doesn't work. Because I don't know, I mean, nobody really knows, but it's just simply, it just doesn't work. So that's why we want to track down individual cells. Now, here is the main idea. So with this model, we were able to match our experimental data with our simulation results, and this one is quite consistent with. So with the model, this individual cell-based models, we are able to measure cell speeds, how fast the cells can migrate, and so on. Then that is in good agreement with the experiments, for instance, and then you can do a lot of different things and what are the effects of glucose levels and so on at the cell base. And then you can compare your simulation results with the experiments, and that is very consistent. And cell motility, you can compare the cell motility and all that. So now here's the point. Now, and again, what is the point? What is new? Why? In this field, it's not like you want to waste your time. It's not like, I'm doing this one because I am boring. I'm not bored. I have a lot of different things. And I do this one because I like it. And I want to do something very, very useful. Something useful. So, in this case, here's my strategy. First strategy. This can be very radical idea. And well, not this one yet, but this is something nobody is doing in the medical field. No medical doctor will do this one until that, that method is proven to be safe for the patients. And FDA, FDA have to approve it first after the clinical trial. But this is something we can do as a mathematician. Who cares? We are mathematicians. We are not dealing with the patients, real patients here yet. But we can suggest something new. Now, here's the idea. This dots and this red circle here, this one. Let's suppose that this is the images that medical doctors had, MRI images. And of course, in MRI images, they don't see these individual dots. Only thing they can see is this chunk, this chunk. Now, let's suppose that medical doctors, they cut off this little one, they resect this area, because that's what they do, that's why they make money. They do. After that, this part is empty now. Now, here's my idea. At this spot, let's give an injection on the site. Because none of this radiotherapy or chemotherapy is working. So, give a shot. Now, what is going to happen? Glucose will diffuse to the surrounding tissue. They will touch down on individual cells that have been migrating away from the main core already. Now, they will change their, this MIR51 MPK control. Through this control, they'll change their shift. They will have different phases now. They will shift their migrates into this proliferative phase. Then they will start growing. Then these cells will start growing. Well, this is radical because it's like you are growing tumor cells in your body, in your brain. Up to this point, nobody want to do it. Maybe some medical doctor might kill me for that. But yet, you can still see. You can still see, this can be visible now. You can see this visible chunk of tumor cells. And of course, you have to cut off more tissues. But that is better than losing patients, in my opinion. So, you cut off this. But if you can eradicate, in other words, if you kill them all without having any single bad guy, then you can survive. That's the hypothesis. Okay, so that was published, and actually the feedback from this feedback was quite good. They liked this idea very much, and of course that doesn't mean that they will do this in the medical field and they perform this in the. And for the patients, of course, they will not do it. FDA, of course, have to approve first. But now, after that, more advanced idea, which was published this month, is this. Now, I want to go forward. I want to move forward with better idea. What is the idea? It's not just simply passively giving an injection on the tumor site, because only thing they can do is just grow the tumor cells in the neighborhood of the tumor site. But if I give an injection with this medical model again, if I give an injection, let's see, if I give an injection, if I give an injection, so I want to give another injection with a chemotacton, meaning I want to seduce them. I want to bring them back. I want to bring these individual cells back by giving them a very chemotactant, something they like. Then they might come back to their original site. Then give an injection of glucose and make them grow so that you can see. Then cut off. That's the idea. And again, this idea has been approved. Well, at least at the academic field. So I guess this is the things that I do. So beyond this, there's a lot of different techniques that you can use, but this is, I guess, most of the things that I wanted to show. And I guess obviously I don't have any time for another model here. But with similar type of the approaches, we can attack a lot of different problems in the cancer research. And I guess I will just shut up now and probably answer your question if you have any. 네, 질문 있어요? 없어요? 네.
그 그래프 모델링을 해서
네.
추측을 한다는 말씀이신 것 같은데
네.
그렇게 생긴 그래프 이제 수학을 이용해서 점수를 제어해가지고
네.
정한다고 하시잖아요.
예, 예.
그러면은 단순히 MRI나 증강 현상만을 가지고 문자를 설정해야 될 텐데 예를 제곱이라든지 아니면 분수에 얼마만큼의 텐션을 주는지 그런 거는 어떻게 돼요?
아, 분수의 텐션이요?
그러니까 그러니까 그래프 자체에는 레슨을 하는지에 따라서 증강속도가 차이가 많이 나고
네.
결과에서도 차이가 많거든요. 근데 처음에 모델링 할때 요소만을 가지고 요소랑 결과만을 가지고 어떤 데가 어떻게 나와요?
아, 그거는 이제 그 저희들이 컨트롤해요. 그러니까 sensitivity analysis라고 해가지고, 그러니까 어떤 폼을 썼을 때라든가, 아니면 어떤 파라미터를 썼을 때 어떤 결과가 나오는지를 보고, 그걸 이제 수학적으로 분석을 해요. 그래서 수학적으로 이제 다이내미컬 시스템 가지고, 아, 이런 텀을 썼을 때 이런 이펙트가 있고, 그래서 순수 수학 하시는 선생님들은 사실은 제가 이렇게 마들을 이렇게 많이 만들어 놓으면, 뭐 저도 가끔 합니다만, 그 순수학 이렇게 PD 하시는 선생님 중에 이제 레귤러리티 하시는 선생님들은 그런 이제 PD마들을 가지고 와서 이제 연세대학교 강경호 박사님이랑 그쪽 교수님이랑 이제 일을 하고 있는데, 그런 걸 가지고 와서 이제 그 폼을 좀 다르게 바꿨을 때나 이랬을 때 이제 그 PD, 그 수학적인 구조 안에서 어떤 이펙트가, 그러니까 수학적으로 뭐 인피니티로 튀는지 아니면 뭐 어떤 커브가 나오는지, 이런 것들은 이제 사실 그 수학적으로 좀 더 리거러스하게 다시 따로 그 워크를 해요. 근데 이제 마들링을 할 때 그 초점은 이제 우리가 가지고 있는 데이터하고 수학적으로 보면 사실 퀄리테이티블리 다르지 않고 같을 수도 있어요. 그러니까 예를 들어 뭐 잘하는 게 뭐 이렇게 잘할 수도 있지만 조금 높게 이렇게 잘할 수도 있고 이런 건 차이일 수 있지만, 그렇지만 그 익스페리멘털 데이터하고는 일단 비교를 한 상태에서 하지 않으면 이게 의미가 없기 때문에 일단은 가장 그 non-linearity를 포기하는 거죠. 그러니까 포기하는 게 아니라 그 어답트를 하는 거예요. 그러니까 순수 수학에서는 사실 그 regularity나 existence 이런 걸 하다 보면 이게 그 폼이 뭐 2/3니 무슨 뭐 스퀘어 루트로 쓰니 뭐 제곱을 쓰니 이런 non-linearity가 좀 커지면 커질수록 이게 좀 약간 regularity가 많이 깨지거나 이제 많이 차이가 나요. 그런 차이가 나는데 그래프적인 요소로 보면 똑같거든. 그건 이제 순수학의 그 한계의 문제고, 어널리시스의 한계의 문제고, 실제 그 이쪽에서 하는 분야에서의 관심사는 사실은 이제 어떤 게 더 데이터를 더 프리딕트를 하느냐. 그래서 마들이 뭐 교과서에서 나오는 건 그건 안 나오죠. 여러분 교과서에 배우는 건 그런 건 절대 안 나올 거예요. 교과서에 나오는 건 제 기껏해야 뭐 제곱이니 삼성이니 뭐 이런 거 끝나죠. 근데 이제 실제 마들링 할 때는 뭐 무슨 뭐 U의 뭐 2분의 3승, 뭐 7분의 6승, 뭐 이상한 막 이런 것도 나오고 그래요. 그러니까 그런 것들이 나오는 것이 그 데이터 피링을 하기 때문에요. 그러니까 이제 그런 것들을 했을 때 가장 가지고 있는 데이터가 가장 잘 핏한다라는 것 때문에. 그래서 그런 것들은 이제 어쩔 수가 없고요. 일단 그 폼을 하든 수학적으로는 이제 그런 다른 폼을 가졌을 때 블럽을 하는지, 파이나이트 블럽을 하는지 어쩌는지 그런 것들은 이제 어널리시스를 따로 해요. 그러니까 수학 저널에 따로 내죠. 다른 질문, 여기 몇 시까지예요? 15분까지요? 아, 여기 옆에 선생님이 15분까지 있으리라고 지금 혹시 레코드 되고 있나요? 아, 되고 있구나. 그러면 원래 저희 학교에서는 레코드 안 하는데, 제가 그 옆에 선생님하고 동기예요. 여기 지금 저 수업하신 선생님하고 저하고는 동기고, 같이 유학을 같이 나갔어요. 같이 나갔고, 제가 이제 여러분 선배죠. 그러니까 직속 선배고, 실제 아까 말했지만 그 PD 하려고 이제 유학을 나갔다가, 그래서 여러분 중에 이제 김동준 교수한테 요즘 후배들 중에 이제 후학이 많지 않다라는 얘기를 들었는데, 혹시 유학이나 이런 것 쪽으로 관심 있으면, 김동준 선생님이나 이제 저나, 김동준 선생님은 이제 옆에 수학 교육을 전공하셨고, 저는 이제 응용수학을 전공했으니까, 저 말고도 이제 여러분 선배님 중에 여기저기 많이 계세요. 그러니까 수학과에도 김준석 선생님도, 그쪽 뉴메리컬 애나리시스에서 계시고, 홍성국 선생님도 그쪽에 계시고, 그래서 여기저기 있거든요. 그래서 혹시 관심이 있으시면 이제 어떻게 준비를 하는지, 아니면 이제 어떤 식으로, 어떤 분야가 이제 앞으로 유명한지 내지는 어떤 정세는 어떻게 가는지, 몇 살 정도 어떻게 되는지, 그런 글로벌한 어떤 로드맵이나 그런 픽처가 좀 필요하고 이러면 컨택해서 연락해 주시면 제가 기꺼이 법사드리겠습니다. 그렇게 하고, 예.
미시간 유니버시티에서 가르치려고 하는데
네.
왜 한국어로 가시는지.
그건 참 지금 녹음이 되고 있어서 어떻게 저기 하기가 좀 그런데, 그 개인적인 이슈 때문에 그렇게 했어요. 그러니까 저희 아까 말씀드린 것처럼 이제 어머님이 아프셔서, 어머님이 입원하셨어요. 제가 이제 저기 있을 때. 그래서 이제 저는 사실 미국의 생활에 굉장히 해피했었는데, 개인적으로, 이제 어머님이 아프셨고, 이제 형이, 뭐, 오라고 막 하도 난리도 치고, 또 이제 한국에는 또 이제 메스발리컬 바이올로지가 사실 별로 없어요. 없고, 그래서 이제 좀 세계적으로 좀 이렇게 좀 부흥도 좀 시키고 싶고, 그런 욕심도 좀 있고, 또 개인적인 그 결혼 문제도 좀 있었고, 그런 거 때문에, 겸사겸사 해서 이제 들어오게 됐어요. 근데 이제 그 리서치 액티비티 면으로 보면 제가 여기 나갔을 때에 비하면 한국이 굉장히 제가 놀랐어요, 사실은. 이제 제가 나갈 때만 해도 사실 뭐 이런 건물도 없었고, 뭐 여러 가지 그 학생들이 이제 그 어떤 리서치에 대한 태도라든가 여러 가지 그런 것들이 이제 좀 미약했다고 해야 되는지 어떠는지 굉장히 좀 그랬었는데, 제가 한국 와서 이제 연구비 수주하는 그런 상황이라든가 그런 거 보고 많이 놀랐는데, 그래서 요즘은 사실 제가 미국에 있었을 때 그 NSF라는 게 있는데, 여기 한국으로 치면 이제 한국연구재단이죠. 그러니까 굉장히 큰 그 연구비를 수주하는 그런 데인데, NIH는 이제 이쪽 헬스 쪽에 바이올로지 쪽 주로 많이 주고. 그러니까 근데 미국 같은 경우는 이제 NIH라고 지금 말씀드린 국립보건원이에요. 미국에서 펀딩을 제일 많이 하는, 돈이 엄청나게 많은 그런 데거든요. 그래서 우리나라하고는 비교도 안 돼요. 그래서 이제 거기는 돈이 뭐 엄청나게 많아요. 그러니까 거기서 쏟아붓는 돈이 엄청나게 많아가지고, 사실은 이 캔서 쪽에서도 NIH에서 돈을 엄청나게 부었거든요. 그래서 거기는 NIH 밑에 그 분 디비전으로 그 NCI가 또 있어요. 내셔널 캔서 인스티튜트라고 따로 있는데, 거기에도 쏟아붓는 돈이 엄청나게 많아요. 그러니까 그렇게 엄청난 돈을 쏟아부으니까 우리나라 예산하고 비교도 안 될 정도로 엄청나게 많아요. 우리나라 예산은 껌이에요. 그러니까 엄청난 예산을 쏟아붓는데도, 그런데도 사실상 이 캔서 쪽이 그래서 이제 그 50년대 책을 보면, 도서관 가서 한번 찾아보세요. 그러니까 50년대 책 보면 이 몰레큘러 바이올로지나 이런 거, 특히 캔서 쪽으로 보면 이렇게 얇아요. 이렇게 교과서가. 왜냐면 그때는 알려진 게 많지 않아가지고, 이 정도. 지금 가서 한번 책 살려고 한번 해보면, 볼륨 하나로 안 돼. 막 2개, 3개. 그게 무슨 말이냐면, 지금 제가 여기서 프레젠트 했던 그 패스웨이드, 시그널링 패스웨이 하는 거 있죠. 그런 패스웨이나 그런 것들에 대해서 몰레큘러 바이올로지가 엄청나게 알려줬어요. 그러니까 실험들을 그렇게 엄청나게 돈을 많이 넣으니까, 돈을 엄청나게 많이 그 투자를 해가지고, 그래서 그런 것들을 엄청나게 많이 알려줬는데, 아까 말한 것처럼 굉장히 작은 패스웨이 하나만 가지고도 평생 30년 하시는 그 바이올로지 분들도 엄청나게 많으시고, 그러니까 거기 이제 풀이 크니까 또 바이올로지가 좀 많겠어요. 엄청나게 많아요. 수만 명이. 엄청나게 많으니까, 그렇게 많이 하는데도 문제는 뭐냐? 아직도 못 고쳤어요. 그러니까 50년 전이나 지금이나 들어간 돈에 비해서 지금 임프루먼트가 있는 그쪽은 대장암이 좀 나아졌고요. 대장암 조금 나아졌고, 그 유방암 쪽이 조금 나아졌지, 딴 종류 캔서는 거의 죽는율이 똑같아요. 그러니까 그 50년 전에도 100명 중에 3명 이걸로 죽었으면 무슨 암으로 그러니까 뭐 예를 들어 글리오블라스터 같은 경우는 그 6개월 내에 죽는다 그러죠. 서바이벌에서 몇 년 기준을 하느냐에 따라 다른데, 보통 3년이나 5년 내에 죽는 기준 같은 걸 따지는데, 그런 거 가지고 예를 들어 5년 안에 몇 명 죽는다, 퍼센트를 했을 때 70% 죽는다 어쩌고 했으면, 글리오블라스토마 같은 지금 제가 하는 거 이런 거 같은 경우 안 변했어 하나도. 그때 70% 죽었으면 지금도 70%고, 그때 거의 95%가 뭐야? 거의 6개월이면 다 죽었어요. 지금도 다 죽어요. 그러니까 이게 굉장히 뭐랄까, 이제 아직도 뭔가 굉장히, 그게 이제 수학이 할 수 있는 것 중에 하나가 바로 그런 거라는 거죠. 그러니까 너무 많은 게 쏟아져 있으면 그런 것들 하는 게 바이오 인포메틱스예요. 여러분 알고 있는 정보학. 인포메틱스 붙어 있는 게 처음에 바이오 인포메틱스 시작했다가 요즘 메디컬 인포메틱스, 널싱 인포메틱스 막 이것저것 다 붙어 있는데, 그게 인포메틱스 정보학이라는 게 그런 거야. 너무 많은 게 막 이렇게 지네릭 네트워크 돼가지고 깔려 있으니까 그걸 막 엄청난 데이터를 깐 다음에 어떤 알고리즘을 돌려서 그 중에 어떤 유스풀한 인포메이션 추출해낼 할 수 있지 않을까 해서 만들어진 게 정보학이에요. 근데 그거의 다른 반면에 이 수학적으로 우리가 하는 이제 수학적인 거는 그런 것보다도 굉장히 그 앱스트랙한 구조를 봐서 구조상으로 우리가 뭔가 이렇게 굉장히 수학자들이 잘하는 게 그거잖아요. 우리가 잘하는 게 뭐예요? 우리가 잘하는 거는 복잡한 상황이 주어졌을 때 복잡한 거, 짜잘한 거 다 쳐내고 앱스트랙화 시켜가지고 그 녀석들의 비헤이비어를 앱스트랙한 센스에서 분석하는 거거든요. 그러니까 이제 그게 저희들이 잘하는 거니까 그런 것 쪽으로 이제 저희들이 그래서 요즘 이제 NIH나 이런 데서도 수학적 모델링이 안 들어가면 안 받아줘요. 그 프로포저로 요즘엔 미국 같은 경우에 그런 만큼 한국도 지금 막 바뀔 거예요 아마 금방. 그래가지고 어쨌든 유명한 분야다 뭐 이렇게 뭐 대충 얘기를 하고 어쨌든 뭐 시간이 됐으니까 여기서 마치겠습니다. 그러면 예, 수고하셨어요. 긴 시간.